Lihan had never felt so small in his entire life. The Grand Assembly Hall stretched before him like a cathedral built for giants. The ceiling rose so high that clouds of soft light drifted near the top. Thousands of seats curved in perfect circles around a central stage, and every single seat was filled with creatures Hayan had only seen in briefing documents. There were beings made of living crystal that caught the light, and scattered rainbows across the floor. There were tall, thin creatures with skin like bark and eyes like deep forest pools. There were massive figures covered in armor that seemed to grow from their own bodies, and there were hundreds more species from 52 different star systems, gathered here on the space station horizon, prime for the Galactic Unity Summit. Hyun was 26 years old. He was a junior officer in Earth's Space Diplomatic Division. He had trained for 3 years just to be allowed on this station, and right now he was late, lost, completely terrified. Earth had only been part of the galactic community for 3 years. To these ancient civilizations, humans were babies, newcomers. Some of the species in this room had been traveling between stars when humans were still living in caves. They looked at Earth the way a grandfather might look at a child playing with blocks, with amusement. Perhaps, but never respect. Hyun finally found the entrance to the assembly hall and slipped inside. The ceremony had already begun. A creature of pure light floated above the central stage, speaking in a language that Hyun's translator chip converted to soft. Formal words about peace and cooperation. He scanned the hall desperately. The seating was arranged by rank. The front circles, the first circle, the second circle, those were for ancient empires, for rulers and their heirs. The back rows were for younger species. For species like humans, Hyun spotted his senior colleagues far across the hall, seated in the very last row. There was no way to reach them without walking in front of thousands of aliens. He would have to find another seat. He looked around. Every seat near him was taken. He took a few steps to the left, then the right. Nothing. The aliens around him glanced at him with expressions he could not read. Some seemed annoyed. Others seemed curious. The way someone might be curious about an insect that had wandered into their home. Hyun felt sweat forming on his forehead. This was a disaster. He was going to have to stand against the wall like a servant. Earth's representatives would be humiliated. His career would be over before it even began. Then cool fingers wrapped around his wrist. Hyun froze. He turned his head slowly. A woman stood beside him. No, not a woman. Not human. Her skin was the color of soft lavender, smooth and flawless. Her hair fell past her shoulders like strands of silver silk. Her eyes were the strangest thing about her. They had no pupils, no whites. They were simply pools of molten silver that seemed to glow from within. She wore robes of white and gold that flowed around her like water. A thin circlet of crystal rested on her forehead. Even without knowing anything about alien fashion, Hyun understood immediately that this creature was royalty. She was beautiful. She was terrifying. And she was holding his wrist. "Come," she said. Her voice was soft, like wind through leaves. Before Hayan could respond, she turned and began walking. Her grip on his wrist was gentle but firm. He had no choice but to follow. She led him down the aisle, past the back rows, past the middle sections. Aliens turned to stare as they passed. Whispers began to ripple through the crowd like stones dropped in still water. Hyun's heart pounded harder with every step. Where was she taking him? What was happening? He wanted to ask, but his voice had abandoned him. They passed the 10th circle. The 7th. The 5th. The whispers grew louder. They passed the 3rd circle. The 2nd, and then they reached the 1st circle. The 1st circle was different from the others. The seats were larger, more elaborate. They were thrones, really. Each one designed for the ruler or heir of an ancient empire. Hayan recognized some of the beings seated there from his briefings. The High King of the Crystal Dominion, the Elder Mother of the Forest Worlds, the War Chief of the Iron Legion. These were beings who controlled thousands of planets. Beings who had lived for thousands of years, and the Lavender Woman was leading him. Directly toward them. She stopped beside an empty throne. It was elegant, carved from something that looked like frozen moonlight. She turned to face him. "Sit here," she said. Hyun stared at her. His translator chip must be broken. There was no way she had just said what he thought she said. "I cannot," he managed to whisper. "This is the first circle." "I am not sit," she repeated. Her silver eyes held his. There was no anger in them, no demand. Just calm, absolute certainty. Hyun sat. The hall went silent. It was not the gradual silence of a crowd losing interest. It was the sudden, sharp silence of thousands of beings, all stopping at once. Every eye in the assembly hall turned toward the first circle, toward Hyun. He could feel their stares like physical weight pressing down on him. His face burned. His hands trembled. He wanted to stand up, to run, to apologize and explain that this was all a mistake. But the lavender woman sat down in the throne beside him. She folded her hands in her lap and turned her attention to the stage. As if nothing unusual had happened at all, Hyun did not know who she was. He did not know why she had chosen him. He did not understand anything that was happening, but he understood one thing. He could not move. He could not speak. He could only sit perfectly still and pray that he would survive whatever came next. The being of light on the stage continued speaking, but no one was listening anymore. The whispers had returned, louder now, spreading through the hall like fire. Hyun caught fragments of them through his translator chip.
"Oh."
A human. In the first circle. Is this a joke? An insult. That is Princess Lyra of the Ali Empire. What is she doing? Princess Lyra, Ali Empire. Hyun's blood turned to ice. He knew that name. Everyone knew that name. The Ali Empire was one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy. They had been traveling between stars for over 4 million years. They were legends. Gods, almost. In the eyes of younger species, and their princess had just seated a human. Beside her in the first circle, Hyun risked a glance at her. Princess Lyra sat perfectly still, her silver eyes fixed on the stage. Her expression revealed nothing. But her hand moved slightly. Her fingers found his wrist again, resting there lightly, like a promise or a warning. "Do not be afraid," she said, so quietly that only he could hear. "You are exactly where you are supposed to be." Hyun wanted to ask what she meant. He wanted to ask why she had chosen him, what she wanted, what any of this meant. But the ceremony continued. The being of light spoke of unity and peace. The delegates watched Han with eyes full of shock, suspicion, and something that might have been fear. And Princess Lyra did not let go of his wrist for the rest of the ceremony. When the ceremony finally ended, Hyun's senior colleagues found him outside the hall. Their faces were pale with shock. "What happened in there?" demanded Ambassador Kung Nari, a stern woman who had spent 20 years climbing the ranks of Earth's diplomatic corps. "Do you have any idea what you have done?" Hyun shook his head. "I do not know. She just took my hand. She told me to sit." Nari stared at him. "The Ali princess. The third daughter of the High Emperor. She chose you. A junior officer. A nobody." She pressed her fingers to her temples. "This is either the greatest opportunity in human history or the beginning of a war." Hyun looked back at the assembly hall. Somewhere inside, Princess Lyra was still there. Surrounded by beings who had ruled the stars. For millions of years she had chosen him. He just did not know. Why the summons came the next evening. Hyun was sitting alone in his small room on the station. Staring at the wall and trying to understand what had happened, he had not slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw thousands of alien faces staring at him. He felt Princess Lyra's cool fingers on his wrist. His door chimed. A message appeared on his screen. "Princess Lyra of the Ali Empire requests your presence. Transport will arrive in 10 minutes." Hyun's stomach dropped. This was it. He was going to be punished, interrogated, perhaps killed. He had somehow offended the Ali Empire, and now he was going to pay for it. He put on his cleanest uniform and waited. The transport was a small vessel made of the same moonlight-colored material as Lyra's throne. It carried him through the station's corridors, past sections he had never seen before, into a part of Horizon Prime that seemed to belong to a different world entirely. The alley. Diplomatic wing was beautiful beyond words. The walls glowed with soft, shifting colors. Plants with silver leaves grew from crystal containers. The air smelled like flowers Hayan could not name. A tall alley guard led him through winding hallways until they reached a door that opened into a private garden. Real trees grew here, their leaves pale purple. A small stream flowed over smooth stones. And sitting on a bench beside the stream was Princess Lyra. She wore simpler clothes now, flowing dress of pale blue that made her lavender skin look almost luminous. Her silver hair was loose around her shoulders. Without her crown and formal robes, she looked younger, more real. She looked up when Hayan entered. "You came. You summoned me, Your Highness." Yon bowed deeply. "I did not think I had a choice." "You always have a choice." She gestured to the space beside her on the bench. "Sit." Hayan hesitated. Then he sat, keeping a respectful distance between them. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The stream made soft sounds over the stones. Somewhere in the garden, a bird-like creature sang a melody that Hayan had never heard before. "You are afraid," Lyra said finally. It was not a question. Yes, Hayan admitted. There was no point in lying.
"Why?"
"Because I do not understand what is happening. Because I am a junior officer from a young species, and you are a princess of the oldest empire in the galaxy. Because yesterday you caused every being in the assembly hall to stare at me like I was a disease." He paused. "Because I do not know what you want from me." Lyra turned to look at him. Her silver eyes studied his face with an intensity that made him want to look away. "I want to ask you a question," she said. Hayan waited. "Why is your blood so loud?" Hayan blinked. "I do not understand." Lyra reached out and took his wrist again, the same way she had in the assembly hall. Her fingers found his pulse point. "There," she said, "your heart. It beats so fast, so strong. I can hear it without even trying. It sounds like drums, like thunder." She tilted her head. "Does it always sound like this?" Hayan did not know how to answer. "I think so. This is just how human hearts work." "Our hearts beat once every 2 minutes," Lyra said. "When we are calm, even slower. We have perfected our bodies over 4 million years. We need very little food, very little sleep. We can live for thousands of years." She released his wrist and looked down at her own hands. "But we have lost something." "Lost something?" "Feeling." The word came out soft, almost sad. "Emotions. We remember what they were. We have records, stories, art from ancient times, when the alley loved and hated and grieved and celebrated. But now," she pressed her hand to her own chest. "Now there is only quiet. Our hearts beat, but we do not feel them. Our minds think, but we do not feel them either." Hayan stared at her. He had studied the alley before coming to the summit. Everyone had. They were known as the perfect species, beautiful, intelligent, nearly immortal. The briefings had never mentioned this. "When I touched your wrist yesterday," Lyra continued, "I felt your pulse. And for a moment, I felt something in my own chest. Something I have not felt in 300 years. She looked at him. "I need to understand. I need to know if the stories are true." "What stories?" "That humans feel everything. That you laugh until you cry. That you love so deeply, it changes you. That you grieve so hard you cannot eat, cannot sleep, cannot function." Her silver eyes searched his face. "Is it true?" Hayan thought about the question. He thought about his life. He thought about his grandmother, as he said. "It is true. Tell me," Suhain told her. He told her about his grandmother, Bongsoon. How she had raised him after his parents died in a car accident when he was 7 years old. How she lived in a small apartment in Busan with a window that looked out over the ocean. How she would sing old songs while she cooked dinner. How she would hold his hand when he was scared of thunderstorms. He told her about the way she laughed, loud and free, like she did not care who heard. He told her about the way she smelled like ginger and green tea and something warm he could not name. He told her about the way she called him Hayana, in a voice that made him feel like he was the most important person in the world. He told her about the day she got sick, about the months in the hospital, about sitting beside her bed, holding her hand, watching her grow weaker and smaller. He told her about her last words. "You were my greatest joy, Hyena. Never forget that." He told her about the sound he made when she stopped breathing, a sound that came from somewhere so deep inside him that he did not know it existed until that moment. And then he told her the thing he had never told anyone. "I still talk to her," he said. His voice was shaking now. "Every morning, I look at her photograph and I tell her about my day. I tell her about my work, my friends, my dreams. I know she cannot hear me. I know she is gone." He felt tears forming in his eyes. "But I cannot stop, because if I stop talking to her, it means she is really gone, and I am not ready for that." A tear slipped down his cheek. Lyra reached out. Slowly, gently, she touched the tear with her fingertip. She looked at the small drop of water on her skin with an expression of wonder. "You carry your dead with you," she whispered. "We forget ours within a decade. Their names, their faces, their voices, they fade like morning mist. But you," she looked at him, "you keep them alive inside you. The pain, the love, all of it. Is that not normal?" Huan asked. "No." Lyra's voice was strange, thick. "It is not normal at all. It is extraordinary. It is beautiful." She touched her own chest. "And I think I felt something, just now.
When you spoke about your grandmother,
Something moved inside me. Something I do not have a name for." She looked at him with her silver eyes, and for the first time, Hyun saw something human in them. "Will you teach me?" she asked. "Will you teach me how to feel?" Hyun looked at this ancient princess, this being who had lived for centuries, who ruled over countless worlds, who had everything the galaxy could offer. And he saw loneliness. He saw hunger. He saw someone who had forgotten what it meant to be alive. "I will try," he said. Lyra smiled. It was small, uncertain, like a muscle that had not been used in a very long time. But it was real, and somewhere deep in Hyun's chest. He felt something shift, something that told him his life would never be the same again. The scandal spread across the station like fire. Within 2 days, every species at the summit knew what had happened. The alley princess had seated a human in the first circle. She had been seen walking with him in her private gardens. She had smiled at him, actually smiled, something no one had seen an alley do in living memory. The whispers grew louder. The stares grew sharper. And finally, on the 3rd day, someone decided to act. Hyun was eating alone in a small dining area when the doors burst open. A massive figure strode in, followed by a crowd of aliens who seemed eager to watch something happen. The figure was Commander Torin of the Veth Collective. Hyun recognized him from the briefings. The Veth were a warrior species, tall, broad, covered in natural armor that looked like black stone. They had conquered dozens of worlds. They believed strength was the only thing that mattered. Torin stopped in front of Hyun's table. He was at least 8 feet tall. His eyes were red and burned with contempt. "So this is the creature," Torin said. His voice was deep, like rocks grinding together. "This is the beast that the alley princess has chosen to disgrace herself with." Heian stood slowly. His heart was pounding, but he kept his voice steady. "I mean no disrespect, Commander. I did not ask for any of this." "Of course you did not ask. Beasts do not ask. They simply exist, crawling through the galaxy, pretending to be civilized." Torin stepped closer. "Your species has been among us for 3 years. 3 years. And already you think you can sit among emperors? You think you can touch an alley princess?" The crowd murmured in agreement. "I have done nothing wrong," Hyun said. "You have done everything wrong. Your very presence here is wrong." Torin's red eyes narrowed. "I challenge the decision. I demand a trial of echoes," the crowd gasped. Hyun heard voices explaining in rapid whispers. The trial of echoes was an ancient tradition, a contest where 2 beings projected their most powerful memory into a shared mental space. The memory that moved the judges more deeply won. It was used to settle disputes that could not be resolved by words alone. Princess Lyra is not here, Hien said. You cannot challenge her without I do not challenge her. Torrens smiled, showing teeth like black knives. I challenge you. You are the insult. You are the problem. Defeat me, and humans may keep their place at the summit. Lose, and your entire species will be expelled. Hien felt cold spread through his body. That is not fair. I am not a warrior. I am not trained for mental combat and surrender. Admit that humans are beasts. Crawl back to your little planet and never return. The crowd watched, waited. Hien could feel their judgment pressing down on him. He thought about his grandmother. He thought about her last words. He thought about every human who had ever dreamed of reaching the stars. I accept, he said. The trial was held in the Forum of Truths, a massive arena at the heart of the station. Thousands of aliens filled the seats. 12 judges sat in a special section, ancient beings from 12 different species, chosen for their wisdom and their ability to sense emotions. Hien stood on one side of the arena. Torrens stood on the other. Between them floated a sphere of pale light, the echo chamber, which would display their memories for all to see. Princess Lyra sat in the front row. Her face was calm, but Hien could see tension in the way she held her hands. The rules are simple, announced the chief judge, a being made of living crystal. Each challenger will project their strongest memory into the echo chamber. The memory that causes the greater emotional impact will win. Commander Torrens, as the challenger, you may go first. Torrens smiled. He closed his eyes. The echo chamber flickered. Then it exploded with light. The memory filled the arena. Everyone could see it, feel it, experience it as if they were there. 1,000 warships darkened the sky of an alien world. Torrens stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching as cities burned below. The people of the planet, small, peaceful creatures, fled in terror. They begged for mercy. There was none. Torrens' voice echoed through the memory. This is the price of weakness. This is the fate of those who cannot defend themselves. Remember this day. Remember the Veth? The memory faded. The arena was silent. It had been terrifying, magnificent, cold. The judges conferred briefly. Several nodded with what looked like respect. The Veth way was the way of strength. Many species understood it. The Haon of Earth, the chief judge announced. You may present your memory. Hien walked to the center of the arena. His legs felt weak. His hands trembled. What memory could he show? He had never conquered a world. He had never commanded armies. He was just a junior officer who missed his grandmother. He closed his eyes, and he remembered. The echo chamber glowed. A hospital room appeared. Small, white, filled with the soft beeping of machines. An old woman lay in the bed, her skin pale, her breathing shallow. Her hair was white and thin against the pillow. A young man sat beside her, holding her hand. His eyes were red from crying. His uniform was wrinkled because he had not changed clothes in 3 days. Grandmother, the young man whispered, please do not leave me. I am not ready. I do not know how to live without you. The old woman opened her eyes. They were tired, faded, but full of love. Hyena, she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. My beautiful boy, you were my greatest joy. Every day with you was a gift. Never forget that. Never forget how much you are loved. She reached up with trembling fingers and touched his cheek. Live well, she said. Love deeply. And when you are sad, remember that I am always with you. Always. Her hand fell. The machines changed their sound. The young man pressed his forehead to her hand and made a sound of grief, so deep, so raw, that it seemed to come from the very center of his soul. The memory faded. The arena was not silent this time. It was filled with sound. The judges were weeping. All 12 of them. Tears streamed down, faces made of crystal, of bark, of light. One judge, an ancient creature of living energy, flickered and dimmed, as if wounded. In the audience, thousands of aliens were crying. Species that had not wept in centuries. Species that did not even have tear ducts. They made sounds of grief that their own languages had no words for. Commander Torrens stood frozen. His red eyes were wide. His massive hands were shaking. "What is this?" he demanded. "What did you do to me?" Han looked at him. "I showed you what it means to be human." The chief judge rose on unsteady legs. "The verdict is unanimous. Lehigh and Averth is victorious." Torrens stumbled backward. For a moment, Hyen thought he might attack. But then the Veth commander did something no one expected. He bowed his head. "I withdraw my challenge," Torrens said. His voice was thick, strange. I did not know. I did not understand." He looked at Hyen with something new in his eyes. Not respect, exactly, but something close. "Your species is not weak. You are something else entirely. Something. I have no name for it." He turned and walked out of the arena without another word. The crowd parted for him in silence. Hien stood alone in the center of the forum. His face was wet with tears. His own tears, shed during the memory. He had not tried to hide them. He looked up at Princess Lyra. She was crying too. Silver tears ran down her lavender cheeks. Her hands were pressed to her chest. Her silver eyes shone with something that looked like wonder. And in that moment, Hien understood he had not just won a contest. He had shown the galaxy something it had forgotten. He had shown them what it meant to feel. Everything changed after the A. Trial Hoon became famous overnight. His face appeared on information screens across the station. Delegates from dozens of species wanted to meet him, talk to him, understand how a creature from such a young world could bring ancient beings to tears. But fame, Hyen quickly learned, was a double-edged sword. Not everyone was impressed by his victory. Some were frightened. Some were angry. And some, he would soon discover, wanted him dead. 3 days after the trial, Hyen returned to his quarters late at night. He had spent the evening with Lyra in her gardens, teaching her about human music. He had played recordings of old Korean folk songs, and she had listened with her eyes closed, her hand pressed to her chest. Trying to feel the emotions the music was meant to create, it had been a good evening. A peaceful evening. He opened the door to his room and stepped. Inside, something moved in the darkness. Hyen did not have time to react. A figure lunged at him, holding something that glowed with deadly energy. He threw himself backward, crashing against the wall. The weapon missed his chest by inches. There were 3 of them. 3 assassins, dressed in black, their faces hidden behind masks. They moved with terrible speed, surrounding him. "Nothing personal," one of them said. The voice was distorted, inhuman. "This is just business." Hyen scrambled to his feet. He had no weapon, no training for combat. He was going to die in this room alone, far from home. The lead assassin raised his weapon, and then the door exploded inward. Lyra stood in the doorway. Her silver eyes blazed with light. Her hands glowed with energy that Hyen had never seen before. "Get away from him," she said. Her voice was different, cold, dangerous. For the first time, Hyen understood why the alley had ruled the galaxy for 4 million years. The assassins turned. One of them laughed. "The princess herself. This makes things easier." 2 birds with 1 Lyra moved. It was so fast that Hyen could barely see it. One moment she was in the doorway. The next moment she was between Hyen and the assassins. Her hand raised, energy pouring from her palm. 2 of the assassins flew backward, crashing through the wall and into the corridor beyond. They did not get up. The 3rd assassin was faster. He dodged Lyra's attack and thrust his weapon forward, straight at Hyen's heart. Lyra threw herself in front of the blow. The energy blade pierced her chest. Time seemed to stop. Hyen watched in horror as Lyra stumbled backward, the weapon still embedded in her body. Silver blood, actual silver, like liquid metal, poured from the wound. The assassin tried to flee. Hyen grabbed a piece of debris from the broken wall and swung it with all his strength. It connected with the assassin's head. The figure crumpled to the ground. Hyen caught Lyra before she fell. No, he said. Lyra, Stay with me. Her silver eyes were dimming. Her breathing was shallow. Hey, Yon. I am sorry. I should have protected you better. Do not talk. Save your strength. Hyan pressed his hand against her wound, trying to stop the bleeding. The silver blood was warm. It stained his hands, his clothes. Help. Someone help. Guards arrived within minutes. Medical teams followed. They took Lyra away on a floating stretcher, her body surrounded by machines that beeped and hummed with desperate energy. Hyun sat on the floor of his destroyed room. Covered in silver blood, and waited. She survived. Barely. The wound would have killed a human instantly. But the alley were stronger, more resilient. Lyra spent 3 days in a healing chamber, floating in liquid that repaired her damaged tissues. During those 3 days, Hyun did not leave the medical wing. He sat outside her chamber, watching through the transparent walls. Refusing to eat or sleep, on the second day, Ambassador Kongnari found him there. You need to come with me, she said. Her face was pale, her voice tight. There is something you need to know. She led him to a secure room. The door sealed behind them, the assassins, Nari said. We identified them. We found out who sent them. Who? Hyun demanded. The Veth. Another species that hates humans? Nari shook her head. Her eyes would not meet his.
Humans, she said.
They were hired by humans. Hyun felt the world tilt beneath him. That is not possible. It is true. Nari pulled up files on a screen. There are factions on Earth, powerful people, politicians, military leaders who believe that your connection to the Alley Princess is dangerous. They want Earth to stay isolated, safe. They think involvement with the galaxy will destroy us. So they tried to kill me? They tried to kill you to protect Earth. At least, that is what they tell themselves. Nari finally looked at him. I am sorry, Hyun. I did not know. I swear I did not know. Hyun stared at the files. Names he did not recognize. Orders for his death. Payments transferred through hidden accounts. All from his own people. Why are you telling me this? He asked. Because you deserve to know the truth. And because, Nari hesitated, because I think you might be the only person who can save us. All of us, human and alien alike. What do you mean? Before Nari could answer, a message appeared on the screen. Lyra was awake. Hyun ran. He found her sitting up in her chamber, the healing liquid drained. Her wound closed but still visible as a silver scar across her chest. She looked tired, fragile, more human than he had ever seen her. You stayed, she said when she saw him. Of course I stayed. She held out her hand. He took it without hesitation. There is something I must tell you, she said. Something I should have told you from the beginning. Hyun waited. The Alley are dying, Lyra said. Not from war or disease. From ourselves. Our perfect biology has stopped evolving. Our birth rates have fallen to almost nothing. Our children are born without the ability to feel emotions at all, not even the faint echoes that we experience. She looked at him with those silver eyes, and he saw fear in them. Real fear. In 5 generations, the Alley will be extinct. Hyun felt his chest tighten. Why are you telling me this? Because my father sent me to find a solution. He sent me to search the galaxy for a species that could save us. A species with enough life, enough vitality, enough feeling to reignite what we have lost. She squeezed his hand. I searched for 100 years, she whispered. I visited 1,000 worlds. I found nothing. A silver tear rolled down her cheek. And then I walked into the assembly hall, and I felt your heartbeat. So fast, so strong, so alive. She pressed his hand to her chest, over the scar where the blade had pierced her. And I finally knew, Hyun could feel her heart. It was faster than before, stronger. Your people are dying, he said slowly. And my people tried to kill me. Yes, so what do we do? Lyra looked at him. Despite everything, the wound, the betrayal, the dying empire, she smiled. We save each other, she said. Hyun leaned forward and pressed his forehead to hers. Oh? Then we fight together, he said. Whatever comes next, together. Outside the medical wing, the galaxy continued to turn. Conspiracies moved in shadows. Ancient empires crumbled in slow motion. And somewhere on a small blue planet called Earth, people looked up at the stars and did not know that their future was being decided by a junior officer and an alien princess who had learned to cry. But for now, in this moment, two hearts beat together, one fast and loud, one slow and steady, both alive, both fighting, both refusing to give up. 1 year later, Hyun stood before the full Galactic Council. The central chamber was even larger than the assembly hall where everything had begun. It could hold representatives from every inhabited world in the galaxy, millions of beings, all watching, all waiting to see what would happen next. Haeon was no longer a junior officer. He wore the formal robes of Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council, a title that had not existed 1 year ago, a title that had been created specifically for him. Beside him stood Princess Lyra, but she was not Princess Lyra anymore. 2 months ago, her father had named her Empress heir of the Ali Empire. She would rule their civilization when he was gone. The announcement had shocked the galaxy. Lyra was not the oldest daughter. She was not the most politically experienced, but she was the only one who had changed, the only one who had learned to feel, and her father had seen the difference. "You have become more alive in 1 year than our family has been in 10,000, he had told her. "Whatever this human has given you, whatever he has taught you, it is the future of our people." Now Lyra stood beside Han in the central chamber, wearing robes of silver and gold. The scar on her chest was hidden beneath the fabric, but Haeon knew it was there, a reminder of how close they had come to losing everything. The council fell silent. A being of pure energy floated to the center of the chamber. "Ambassador Li Hun of Earth," the being announced. "Empress Lyra of the Ali Empire. You have requested permission to address the council. You may speak." Hyun stepped forward. His voice carried through the chamber, amplified by technology so advanced it seemed like magic. 1 year ago, I walked into the assembly hall looking for a seat. I was a nobody, a junior officer from a young species. I did not expect to change anything. I did not expect to matter. He paused. Millions of eyes watched him. But someone saw something in me, something I did not know I had. She took my hand and led me to a place I did not belong. And in doing so, she showed me that belonging is not about age or power or rank. It is about what we can give to each other. He looked at Lyra. She nodded slightly. "The Ali Empire is dying," Hyun said. The chamber erupted in whispers. This was not public knowledge. The Ali had kept their decline secret for thousands of years. Hyun raised his hand. The whispers faded. They are dying because they became too perfect, too efficient, too controlled. They forgot what it meant to feel, to love, to grieve, to laugh and cry and hope and dream. He touched his own chest. Humans never forgot. We are messy, chaotic. We feel everything, sometimes too much. Our hearts break and we put them back together. Our people die and we carry them with us forever. He looked out at the millions of beings watching him. This is not weakness. This is strength. This is what it means to be alive. Lyra stepped forward. Her silver eyes swept across the chamber. For 4 million years, the Ali believed that perfection was the goal. We eliminated inefficiency. We controlled our emotions. We became cold, eternal, empty. Her voice cracked slightly. We forgot how to live. She pressed her hand to her chest. 1 year ago, I felt a human heartbeat for the first time. It was fast, loud, so full of life that it frightened me. I did not understand how anyone could survive feeling so much. She looked at Hyun with those silver eyes. Now I understand. You do not survive despite feeling. You survive because of it. Your emotions are not a burden. They are fuel. They push you forward. They make you fight when you should surrender. They make you hope when you should despair. She turned back to the council. Humans call this spirit many things: passion, heart, soul. I call it the most precious thing in the galaxy. Lyra raised her voice. Today, we present to the council a proposal. The Accord of Two Hearts? An alliance between Earth and the Alley Empire. The chamber stirred. An alliance between the newest species and one of the oldest? Unprecedented. Humanity will share with us their vitality, their passion, their fire. Lyra's eyes shone. And we will share with them our knowledge, our technology, our protection. Together, we will build something new, something neither species could create alone. She paused. Together, we will teach the galaxy how to feel again. For a long moment, silence filled the chamber. Then a figure rose from the seats. Commander Torin of the Veth Collective. The being who had challenged Heian 1 year ago. The being who had been brought to tears by a memory of a dying grandmother. I speak for the Veth Collective, Torin said. His voice was different now, softer, still strong, but no longer cruel. 1 year ago, I believed that strength was the only thing that mattered. I believed that emotions were weakness. He looked at Heian. I was wrong. The human showed me something I had never seen. Pain that did not destroy. Love that did not fade. Grief that made him stronger, not weaker. He bowed his head. The Veths support this alliance. We have much to learn from humanity. Us. One by one, other delegates stood. The Crystal Dominion. The Forest Worlds. The beings of living light. Species that had ignored humanity for 3 years. I rose to support them. The vote was called. The Accord of Two Hearts passed. The chamber erupted in sound, cheers, songs, strange alien noises that meant joy in 100 different languages. Hyun felt tears running down his face. He did not try to hide them. Lyra took his hand. We did it, she whispered. We did it together. 1 year later. Hyun and Lyra stood on a cliff overlooking the ocean near Busan. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold and pink. Waves crashed against the rocks below. Seabirds called to each other as they flew home for the night. Lyra had never seen Earth before. She had never breathed real air, felt real wind, watched a real sunset. Everything she knew about planets had come from artificial environments on space stations. It is beautiful, she said softly. Her lavender skin glowed in the fading light. Her silver hair danced in the wind. Heian smiled. It is your home now, too. She turned to look at him. Do you ever regret it? Everything that happened? The danger? The betrayal? Almost dying? Heian thought about the question. He thought about the past 2 years, the fear, the pain, the moments when he was certain he would not survive. He thought about the people who had tried to kill him, the secrets he had uncovered, the weight of being responsible for so much. Then he thought about Lyra's hand in his, her smile, which had grown more natural over time, the sound of her laugh, which she had only recently learned to make. No, he said, I do not regret a single moment. In the distance, they could hear children playing. The first school for Alley-human children had opened 6 months ago. There were only 12 students, some with lavender skin and silver hair, some with brown eyes and black hair. All of them laughing and shouting and running around with more energy than any pure alley child had shown in thousands of years. The sound carried across the cliff. Listen to them, Lyra said. Her eyes were wet. They are laughing. Alley children are laughing. That is the sound of the future, Hyun said. Lyra leaned against him. He put his arm around her shoulders. Thank you, she whispered.